Land is a huge constraint at the moment. I think it's the lowest level of lots on market that we've seen. The builders could sell another 3,000 homes tomorrow if they wanted to, but those people would probably have a terrible experience,
Correct.
would be waiting a long time and would cause additional frustration.
It's not good for the industry. It's not good for
yeah.
customers. It's not good for the builders. It's not good for anyone. Builders were genuinely trying to do a really good job, but it just physically wasn't possible for them to do a really great job and do it in a timely manner. There just wasn't enough people to build homes, so they acquire new people that may have worked for other companies and their quality of work may not have been up to standard. Judge a builder on how they rectify the issues, because I can guarantee you there will be an issue at some stage through the build. It's just inevitable. How they deal with that, how they communicate that, and how they rectify it, I think is key. If a client's following you up for something, it's probably already too late. I always say if there's ambiguity then turns into anxiety, and then they get frustrated. Often they're quite frustrated over something because they just don't understand it. My name's Adam Schaal, and I founded Low Car Property Group to help fix what's wrong with the housing industry after working at some of the biggest building groups. We started this podcast to share insights, real stories, help clients navigate the industry with real confidence. So I'd like to welcome our guest, Michael McGowan. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Adam.
Over the last 7 years, you've been with the HIA, holding the position of Executive Director right now. You're a family man and a father of 2 girls, a sporting enthusiast, love getting your hands dirty, love a little special project. And thank you for joining us.
No worries. Great research there. But I am. Really, I love my role at HIA. I love the industry and our members. I love getting hands dirty at home and got a great family that takes up most of the weekends.
Love it. Before we get cracking, tell us about HIA, what it's all about and what you do every day.
Yeah, so we're an organisation that's been around for 80 years across Australia and started as a group of builders that wanted to have their voices heard and thought that could be best done by association. And, over time, that's grown to be one of the peak residential construction industry bodies talking about housing on a local, state and federal government level. We've got about 1,500 businesses here in WA that are members, about 20,000 across the country. And our focus is really on a really strong economy and making housing supply strong and affordable, because ultimately that means that there's a strong pipeline of work for our builder members, for the manufacturing side of members, apprentices coming through, and the industry as a whole. Over time, that's developed to be some commercial services. So we provide contracts, we provide advice to members on national construction codes, standards, contracts, as well as housing awards. We're a GTO that does some apprenticeships and does some training in the industry as well. So it's a really, I think it's a really interesting organisation. We've seen through COVID that people come back to the association to be part of it and wanting to be part of something bigger and to belong. And that's, something that I'm really excited to lead.
All right. Our first segment is Where's the Lie? So you have gone away, prepared 2 truths and a lie, and it's up to me to try to figure it out. So over to you.
Yeah. It was easier to come up with the truth than the lie, so we'll see how we go. So I grew up in Leeming. I grew up lived in the same house for 23 years, and my parents still own and live in that house. When I was 18, I did a summer as a bricklaying labourer. And the night before my interview at HIA, my house caught on fire.
Let's go with the house on fire.
Unfortunately, it was the bricklaying one.
Oh, I was going to use the bricky one, but nice.
Yeah,
nice.
These hands definitely aren't cut out for bricklaying.
They're not made for it.
No, so...
tell us about it. And you all survived and no battle wounds?
No, there's no traumas. So we had a house, we bought a house in East Vic Park, and we were going through the process of working out whether we renovate or detonate. And we actually had a builder come through and say, you should detonate because in 2018, it was cheap and it was quick. We were probably just a little bit far off making that decision, so we put it on hold. And about 3 weeks later, in the middle of the night, an exhaust fan in our bathroom caught fire on the roof.
Wow.
So we got everyone out of the house. I had that moment where you think, should I fight it or should I just walk away? In hindsight, probably should have left it for another 25 minutes just to burn a bit more before we called the fire department. But that was our trigger to decide to rebuild. And I had to go to Myer and David Jones that morning to grab some new T-shirts and pants that didn't smell like smoke.
Nice.
To wear to my interview.
Our topic now is building without the bullshit. So talking about the market, the insights, and I'd love to hear your perspective on things. What do you see as the biggest win for the building industry in the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think the ability to get back to a bit of stability. So, I think pre-COVID we were building about 10,000 homes, and it's widely accepted that it was market failure, and it was coming from a pretty low point. We all, while it's repressed, we all remember what happened through COVID, and certainly grew to a point that was unachievable to be able to deliver based on a number of factors. I think for those that have made it through, they've now reached a period where their businesses are stable, are much better streamlined to be able to deliver homes for customers. And I think we're now, building over 20,000 homes, which is something that the industry should be, proud of. I think probably the flow on now is that we've been working really closely with state governments and stakeholders around, what's next, and really that investment in infrastructure to unlock land, both in greenfields and brownfields areas, is critical to being able to continue to deliver at a minimum 20,000 and if not more into the future. So, that has now been committed to with a large volume of money, up to $5 billion across state and federal budgets over the last 12 months to invest into those areas. And now it's about the execution and how we can, make sure that supply of land is available so that we can come along and build on top of it.
100%. Like you said, supply of land has been a real pressure point for our business and the industry, and affordability that comes with that. What do you think needs to happen as an industry for us to adapt from a land supply point of view and an affordability point of view?
I think obviously we need to find a way to increase the speed at which we can bring that land to market. I think that's becoming an increasing challenge because we've got fragmented land ownership now. We don't have huge parcels of easy to develop land that we had, over the last 20 to 50 years. We are seeing, more opportunities to increase density, be that gentle density, which is, subdividing some of these larger blocks into twos, medium to high density product around transit-orientated developments and train stations. So the opportunities are there. It's just about unlocking the infrastructure that we need to be able to bring those to market quickly. And there's some capacity constraints, obviously, that are preventing us from doing that.
Are there any government bodies, industry bodies that are really holding up or creating bottlenecks in this space?
Yeah, I think when we talk about infrastructure, we talk about environment approvals, we talk about Western Power, we talk about Water Corp, main roads. I think the interesting part about this is that we saw Metronet be coordinated and delivered by most of those stakeholders, and whether you agree with Metronet or not, it was rolled out in quite a timely fashion, in a very coordinated and efficient manner. And I would argue that we're in the same situation with housing, and everyone likes to use the term crisis, and whether it's a crisis or a conundrum, I'd love to see those parties come together with the same efficiencies to be able to deliver the infrastructure that we need to unlock housing developments, be that in greenfields or brownfields areas, with the same efficiency.
And I guess what sort of advocacy are you doing currently with state governments and federal governments to try stimulate and get more of this out of the ground?
Yeah, I think, we to the state government's credit, they've been pretty open on working with peak bodies and stakeholders, and certainly we're in that space. We have a great relationship with the key people within government, be that Roger Cook, Rita Saffioti, John Carey from a housing and planning point of view, and even Amber Jade Sanderson now, who's taken on a lot of that innovation space and overseeing Western Power. So the conversations are taking place. We understand that there are some resourcing constraints. Much like us, we've got only so many people that can build their homes. They've got only so many people that can do the work. But I think we'd love to see, a more proactive approach in there, and we continue to push, for some cultural change in that space as well that looks to deliver things faster than we're seeing at the moment.
People is a huge challenge across every industry, construction industry, our business, and state government as well. How are we seeing the people supply thing improving across the industry? Obviously, we've had some challenges with trades and obviously businesses like builders with internal staffing. Have you seen that ease with migration, and how does that look?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, and I think we're at this interesting tipping point at the moment where we almost can't build anymore. So that intense pressure that we've seen on the trade base to grow has almost taken a little bit of a pause. And I think, we have seen growth in the trade base. We've seen an increasing a volume of people take up apprenticeships. We have seen builders and contractors start to look at interstate and international migration as ways to build their workforce and capability. But as I said, we're at this kind of point in time where the builders can't really sell more homes because we don't have the land to be able to deliver them on. So there isn't that intense pressure on the trade base to go out there and build teams. They're getting paid reasonably well. They've been working incredibly hard over the last 10 years, but we don't see as many people working Saturdays or Sundays anymore. And I think we need to continue to find ways. To the state government's credit, they've mapped out a really strong pipeline of work that's there to deliver, and now it's up to the private sector to say, okay, well, we know the work's coming, we know it's there. How do we skill up to be able to deliver?
I agree. You can see builders now are very responsible with the volume they're taking on and somewhat capping the volume they're taking on. How does that align, I guess, with the housing completion budgets that we're trying to achieve as a state? Because builders can only build what they can only build. They can only sell as many homes as they can only sell, and we've got migration coming in and there's a housing crisis. So how is that all marrying up, and what's your read?
Yeah, the reality is it doesn't. There's almost two narratives. There's a narrative that says, there's 1.2 million homes, which is probably under what we need anyway, and we're not building enough homes, and we need to build enough homes. But on the other side of the coin, you're going, well, we're building as many as we can, as fast as we can. So what more do you want us to do?
Correct. Which is the only responsible way to handle it.
100%. And I'm sure, as you would know, if the builders could sell another 3,000 homes tomorrow, if they wanted to, but those people would probably have a terrible experience, would be waiting a long time, and would cause additional frustrations.
It's not good for the industry. It's not good for customers. It's not good for the builders. It's not good for anyone.
No, 100%. It's kind of at this kind of real intersection where we need more homes. We need to find ways to unlock them. We obviously need to continue to do things to build faster. But if there is a positive out of it, it is that the industry has gone through peaks and troughs over the course of the last 30 years. 30,000 homes 1 year, 5 years later, we're building 10. So if you said that we're going to build 22 to 25,000 homes every year for the next 5 years, it allows businesses to invest in innovation, to invest in processes, to invest in technology that does change the way we build, find faster ways to do it, increase innovation within the sector and diversity of product, invest in workforce and apprenticeships and in international migration programs. So there is great outcomes that come from that certainty and stability. It probably just doesn't quite fix this narrative in the short term of we need 50,000 homes now.
So there's been a report, or there are reports that there is a rise in defects, or there might be a perception that there's a rise in defects across the industry that may put off people building a home, which also then exacerbates the supply issue. I guess what sort of warranties, statutory guarantees and protections are there in place for buyers in Western Australia?
Yeah, so I guess the first thing while you're building the home is you get access to the home indemnity scheme, which protects the consumer should the builder go through a situation where they're no longer in business.
Mm-hmm.
And that then gives the consumer up to $200,000 that they can either stand up and complete their build, or once their build's completed for the next 6 years, it gives them coverage should they need maintenance and that build would no longer be around. So that's the first thing that a buyer has from a protections point of view. There's certainly building and energy have some great reporting tools on defects, and waterproofing and water ingress is generally the one that comes up. Roof tires is one that's been a big focus for the industry over a long time, and then gutters and downpipes, which is why we've seen in the NCC recently that there's a lot more house designs that are seeing gutters and downpipes on the outside, rather than bringing water back into the building fabric itself. So we have seen an increase. I would argue that we've seen an increase because we've seen a double in the amount of homes that are being built, and that number would naturally increase. For structural elements, in most instances, there's a 7-year statutory warranty that people have access to be able to work with their builder to get some of that fixed. Most builders obviously now have the 6-month maintenance period post completion, where you can work to fix out obviously those things that have come up through the course of your first 6 months of living in the house that you've noticed. I certainly think builders now are really focused on customer service and quality, and I think it would be a reasonable argument and assumption based on what I see on social media that quality took a little bit of a dip through COVID, where there was just this intense pressure to get things done, and everyone was getting tense and frustrated at everyone. But I'd like to think now that we're getting back to some really experienced supervisors managing workloads that are more manageable, and taking a much greater interest and focus on quality and compliance.
Agreed. COVID, I think, disrupted the whole industry in many ways, and builders were genuinely trying to do a really good job, but it just physically wasn't possible for them to do a really great job and do it in a timely manner. And there just wasn't enough people to build homes, so they acquire new people that may have worked for other companies, and their quality of work may not have been up to standard. I've been on that side of the fence and understood that, and then you're out there rectifying works and wearing that cost as a building company. That creates delays for a customer. So it was this real knock-on effect that that clients experience, and we totally understand why they had a pretty poor experience through that time. But I think with any challenge in any industry, good comes from it. And I know builders out there, their processes have become so much more robust. They've enhanced things. They've probably doubled down and locked down the right people and the right teams. And we're seeing really great results for all the builders that we work with across the board. And like you said, they all want to do a good job. They're all good people. They a lot of them are family businesses, and they don't go out there trying to do a bad job. But there's a lot of human beings getting involved in building a home, and there's always going to be issues. And I always say judge a builder on how they rectify the issues, because I can guarantee you there will be an issue at some stage through the build. It's just inevitable. But how they deal with that, how they communicate that, and how they rectify it, I think is key.
Yeah, I think you had Joseph on here a couple of months ago, and I heard him talk about the fact that it is a handmade product at the end of the day, and it's not manufactured in a factory. It's not going to be 100% perfect. But I think you're right. Like it is in the builder's best interests to build your home as efficiently as they can, with as little defects as they can, because obviously it impacts their own business to be coming back and fixing that. But also from a reputation point of view, it's in their best interests to be able to fix and resolve those issues when they come about in a timely manner, because they want to run a strong and successful business.
Absolutely. Time is money for a building company, and the faster they can build a home to the highest standard, so there's no defects and rectification works, the better it is for their bottom line. So there is a real key motivator there for them to get that done, but also they've got a reputation they've got to protect. So everyone's goals align. The clients and the builders' goals are aligning. It's just, like you said, it's a handmade product. It doesn't always work out.
Yep, 100%.
What are the most common complaints the HIA gets from customers?
Well, obviously, over the last couple of years, it's been about timeliness and responsiveness. And I think, one thing that we talk a lot with our members is around, for them, it can often be the 4,000th home that they built, and they know exactly why things are going well or not going so well, why someone might not be on site for a couple of weeks. But often for a customer, and I've been in that position when we were rebuilding our house, that you don't know. And I think, the most often complaint is the frustration that comes from a lack of communication. And I think, that's what we're really working hard with our members on, is around how to have some of those challenging conversations. It may be hard to tell a customer that's going to be an extra couple of weeks, but them just knowing and understanding ultimately leads to a better outcome. They get to understand it a little bit more, probably talk to other people in the same position, and ultimately, and then allows the builder to get on with building the home and not having to deal with an email every day saying what's going on. So that's, I think, where a lot of the frustration in the industry has been driven from over the last 4 or 5 years. Like you said, I think from a technical point of view, a lot of our builders, or 99% of our builders, are doing the right thing. They're liaising with HIA to understand what the latest standards and codes are, and I think that's why we encourage all builders to be part of an industry association, and part of HIA is to make sure that they're getting the most up-to-date information, because things like the National Construction Code do change every 3 years. And there are things that change within Home Building Contracts Act that they really do need to be across, and employment law. So, I think that's where the value of the association is
Absolutely
bringing people together, but playing a really important role to help educate and inform our membership to make sure they're working to the high standard.
Agree. I think communication, you nailed that. Communication from our business and what we see. We're a big believer, if you've got bad news, communicate it as fast as physically possible, and do it with empathy and also a lot of context to be able to create an understanding for the client. And usually people are very rational and completely understand. If a client's following you up for something, it's probably already too late. Because I always say, if there's ambiguity then turns into anxiety, and then they get frustrated, and often they're quite frustrated over something because they just don't understand it. So yeah, like I said, communication's everything. And I think as an industry, I think we've done a really good job to level that up post-COVID.
Yeah, we're a very proud industry, and sometimes having those hard conversations to say it's not going the way we were planning is uncomfortable. But as you said, the quicker you can jump into that conversation, the better the outcome for all parties.
So are defects more prevalent in certain types of builds? So apartments versus house and land, volume builds versus the boutique. What are you seeing across the industry?
I guess from a defects point of view, what we are seeing in some of the house and land products is that it's becoming simpler. And that is because of a range of reasons: speed, efficiency, I guess the talent or the experience of the workforce that's delivering that product. So I think, coming out of that COVID period now, a lot of the first home buyer product is pretty stock standard and able to be delivered to a high quality. I think where we do see some of the more intricate designs and build challenging build types, while we do have a far more experienced trade-based delivering those, there always seems to be one or two things that pop up that are a challenge, and trying to find where that leak's coming from is a bit of a challenge. And like I said earlier, that water ingress, be it in the bathrooms or somewhere else around the house, tends to be the thing that, whether it's in a custom home or an apartment project, seems to be the one that trips them up. So I think, they're while there's not one specific area, I certainly think the risk for a defect is potentially higher in some of those more complex builds. notwithstanding that it does happen, as I said earlier, in a man-made product, and that the builders will jump in there and try to rectify it as quickly as they can.
Absolutely. And again, we have a finite trade base here in Western Australia, and obviously it's growing, but it's been pretty constrained for a period of time. Have you seen that being a big pressure on us getting high-rise and more development out of the ground? Because the cost to construct anything above a couple of levels is not the most appetizing right now for developers. So is that one of the biggest pressure points from a trade supply point of view, labour costs? What's really holding that back?
Yeah, I think while I love all of our members, but we certainly see the trade base probably leaning towards single-story greenfield work.
Yep.
You can play the radio as loud as you want. You can park on the side of the road without blocking a neighbour in. You're not walking tiles or product upstairs. So certainly, I think that's why we've seen the single-story product be more successful over the course of the last 2 to 3 years than we have, and we've seen more people walking away from the two-story market. I think through COVID, there was a lot of people in that two-story space who got caught with delays, scaffolding costs, and those ongoing kind of running costs that aren't there for single-story product. I think the challenge is to create a more sophisticated trade base that can then step into delivering gentle, medium, and high-density product that we so desperately need. And I think we're starting to see some more prefabrication in that space that perhaps takes away some of that risk or even need for some of those trades, and perhaps additional expenses like scaffolding for longer periods of time, because it's all being constructed in a factory and largely being brought out to site and assembled on site. So trade base and sector capacity certainly is, as I said earlier, while it is kind of at that point where it's matched to what we can supply, if we want to supply more and we want to supply more diversity, then we need to be able to bring in more people to be able to deliver that.
What's the biggest headwind for the industry right now, and why?
It's a great question. I think it's land, labour, and regulation, and it's something that we talk about a lot, both with government stakeholders, but the industry more broadly. As we've touched on, land is a huge constraint at the moment. I think it's the lowest level of lots on market that we've seen in reporting history. The volume of labour we talk about, but potentially sophisticated builders as well. So, through COVID, we lost Jacksons and Pindans and some of those other companies. So we don't have that kind of middle tier that can build an affordable apartment space, and we need to try and attract that type of capacity back. And we also need to find ways to do it faster and more efficient. We've spoken a little bit about national construction codes and standards now being, instead of an easy to read document, it's a 2,000-page document that it's easier not to read than to kind of do the investment into what it takes. So, they're probably the key ones. I don't think we have an issue with demand over the course of the next 2 years. That is not a headwind. It is really supply side challenges that we need to continue to unlock. And really that comes down to sector capacity, whether that's civil construction sector or residential construction. That's what's going to be able to help us deliver more homes.
So are you able to share some policies you've been endorsing with government that haven't been rolled out yet?
So the one that we seem to talk about every year is stamp duty. I understand it's a really tricky one. And there's probably a narrative at the moment that if you didn't charge stamp duty, you'd probably just go into the sale price and probably drive prices up to the same level anyway. So I think we're really pushing the government to make sure that any money that they are collecting through stamp duty is going back into investing in housing supply. That's what I'm making peace with at the moment. I do think it inhibits mobility. And I've, gone through, had some interesting conversations with even my parents around not wanting to leave the family home to move into an apartment or something, and having to pay $100,000 for the privilege as a combination of stamp duty and real estate fees.
Correct.
So I think that's one that we'll continue to work on. I think potentially there's the ability to take stamp duty away from first home buyers. I think I touched on earlier to take it away from people that are looking to develop and add new supply to property.
Absolutely.
But I understand in the current market that it's a challenge, and that's why we championed, and we're really happy to see significant money invested into housing over the last little while. I'm a big fan for further planning reform. I think we should be trying to make it easier. And if I was to go one step further, local government reform, and I know that's something that probably won't be touched, but in WA we have more than 140 local governments and shires that all have different local planning policies, and make it incredibly hard to do business with. And when we have lots of conversations about how we should modularize stuff, how we should automate stuff, how we should find efficiencies, when you are dealing with different size land, with different owners, with different councils, it makes that incredibly difficult to execute. So I think they're the strong things that we focus on. Like I said, there's been some great initiatives announced around infrastructure investment, around innovation. Now it's just time for the government to execute those. We don't really have too much more that we want to be asking for at a state level. Just let us get on and do the work.
Red tape.
Yeah,
cut the red tape. Recent changes or fairly recent changes in medium density codes, impacts on that, has it been positive, negative? From a development point of view, I've got my opinions. I've got a site that I was going to develop, may or may not now, based on what I can achieve on the site. How's that had an impact on supply?
Yeah, I think like all things, there's some that are seen as a positive. There are some that is not. I think we'll probably, as a result of the medium density code, probably see less development above R40, so that people have the flexibility to be able to do things on the land that they've got or looking to subdivide and acquire. I can see the principles behind it, but I still think that we should be largely leaving it up to the individuals to be able to kind of make those decisions, rather than over-regulating, putting more red tape in there and having perhaps unrealistic things that people need to deliver. And maybe a state and a local government can take more of a role in providing green space and large trees and some of those other things as well.
Yeah, look, like you said, I totally understand, and I'm for open space. But we had a site recently we were about to whack on a triplex and create more supply. It's got an old brick and tile on it right now, and obviously these changes came through and sort of murdered what we could actually fit onto the site. And they went from 4x2s with a double garage to a 3x2 with a single carport, and it's huge impacts on the yield and the return on the investment. And for us, we're like, we've parked it, unfortunately, and we'll probably look on passing on that property now and selling it, which is a shame, because probably, we'll be just about handing over 3 new 4x2s into the rental market. So understand, but yeah, like you said, some of the choice being handed over to the person that actually owns the site, and less red tape, probably more logic. Again, more housing supply should be a rational part of that, and maybe contribution to, verge trees and contributions to public open space, which we've seen in Victoria. We've got some developments there, and we contribute a percentage of the land portion to public open space for the councils to do whatever they want to do.
Yep.
But taking away the land that you can build on is just then gridlocking what you can build and stopping the development altogether. So you need to really balance it.
I think that we see this a lot when we look at the ideology versus the actual practicality of delivering and supply. And I think sometimes those that are creating some of these things could probably work a little bit closer with those that are delivering them to make sure that there's that right balance for both parties.
What would you like to see government do to stimulate more housing? What are they doing right now that's working, and what would you like to see to further enhance that?
So I think from a supply side, as we've touched on, demand is not a problem. So we don't need anything more in that space. I think what we have seen the government commit to, and particularly through entities like Keystar, is ways and means to unlock more infill, whether that be pre-sale guarantee, whether that be shared equity schemes, whether that be corporate financing, and even infrastructure development funds. I think that's probably where the government can step in and continue to play more of a role. I think I'd love them to put a little bit more pressure on some of the infrastructure, the key players that are responsible for rolling out the infrastructure to be able to speed some of that up. But I think we are delivering a good number of greenfields developments at the moment, and I would like to see us provide greater diversity of products in more areas that people want to live. And I think that's a really hard one, because I think there is some perception out there that the government giving money to greedy developers is a bad thing. But I think when you've got market failure in a particular area of the market, which we see in medium and to high density developments, that's the role of the government in these times, is to step in there and kind of drive some of that.
Stimulate an industry to create supply.
Yeah.
Because at the end, like you said, the perception of stimulating a greedy developer versus what the real impact is, that there's not enough houses or affordable housing or high density housing for people to live in.
Yeah.
Downsizers, first home buyers, whatever that may be. So they're forced to a sort of product typology based on no government intervention.
They will make that money back at the end of the day. So if they're stimulating more supply, there's obviously more payroll tax coming through. There's obviously a lot more workers, and we know that 35% of most of a home is fees and charges anyway. So, I think that's where I don't think the government should be building anything, but they should be continuing to lower the barriers to see some of that.
To regulate, stimulate.
Exactly.
How do you see the industry changing over the next 24 months?
I think we'll continue to see more innovation, and I think we will. Well, it's almost true. I think we'll see simplification. So I think we'll see, because of some of the prefabrication that's coming out, a timber panel or a timber truss, you can't change the roof height in every room. It's not a 30 centimetre brick that you can kind of change direction. So we'll almost see some simplification in design and delivery, but we'll see greater innovation in the types of product that we're producing and the way that we're producing it. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to deliver 50,000 homes a year in the next 2 years. But I think the way that we deliver will continue to evolve, and we'll see more people step into alternative methods other than double brick.
What legacy would you like to leave in your current role with HIA? What would you like to look back on that you're really proud of?
So there's probably two things. Every day we strive to leave the industry in a better position than when we found it. So, that's something that my team works really hard on. I'm really passionate about the training and opportunities that the industry provides. And when we talk to young people, they're really focused on what their purpose is when they're looking for that career. I don't think the industry is going to be affected or impacted by AI in a way that many other industries are. So I think there's some amazing opportunities for people, both young and old, to come and make an impact and ultimately put a roof over someone's head. And I don't think we do a good enough job at connecting those two as an industry. I don't think a person working at a manufacturing facility understands that they are actually having a really positive impact in creating a ColourBond roof that's going to go on a house or a tap or whatever it might be. So I think connecting the social impact of what we do right across the industry is going to put us in a really good position. My other legacy and wish me luck is that every local government will have the same permit application software and application process, and that behind that software and program, there is an AI program that can return an approval back out in a day rather than the black box that sometimes it goes to at the moment. So they're two of the things that we're working on at the moment, and we'll keep striving to try and make it more simple.
That'll be a huge impact, and good luck to goal, but I've got no doubt you'll chip away at it. So our next segment is, do you think you're ready? So these are questions that we get through our social media. I'll fire them to you and answer them back.
Sounds good.
There's a perception that homes are built better pre-90s than what they are today. What's the facts?
I think they're built better now. I think we've evolved a long way. There's certainly terrific elements of houses that were built in the 90s, but as a tall person yourself, I'm sure you like there's a little bit of extra ceiling height.
For sure.
I think our kitchens have evolved, and my personal opinion is what we're building now is better.
Absolutely. Energy efficiency is a big part of what we do now, which probably wasn't. So some of those old houses,
Bit drafty.
Hot in summer and very cool in winter. Is the Australian housing industry dated and lacking innovation?
I don't think so. I think we have been really innovative in housing design for a really long time. We can look at a particular segment of what we do and say that it's probably lacking innovation, but we're seeing that come through really quickly now. I think it'll continue to evolve, but there's probably challenges that stop it from becoming a manufacturing process or seeing greater automation, and there's some of the challenges that we put in front of that.
So what are some of the innovations you've noted for the next 5-10 years for the industry?
I think customer experience has been a huge one. I think the platforms now that builders and brokers have to be able to engage with their customers is amazing. The 3D modelling that's coming out and people be able to see and touch what their home is going to be like. Obviously, we're seeing methodology change as far as double brick versus timber and steel and SIP forms and other methods. And I think naturally we're seeing the speed of construction come through as well. So, I think it's a really exciting place. I think people are willing to challenge, to be creative, and I think that's a real positive.
So the recent budget with the CGT and negative gearing changes have been done in the 80s, and we saw what happened in New Zealand with them being rolled out and brought back. Do you think this is inevitable, and what impacts is this going to create?
I think with everything that we throw ideas out there and see what the response is, and then come back to somewhere that's a happy medium. So my hope is that we're not wedded to this, and that we're taking the feedback that's coming from all parts of our community and finding a model that works. Because, as you say, I don't really think there's too many new ideas. It's just things that are being recycled, and I think we've seen enough evidence historically and even globally that the focus should really be on housing supply and not messing with that in the current environment.
Building brokers, have they added value to the industry, or are they taking away from it?
I think they've certainly added value. I think there's an opportunity for them to partner with both consumers and builders to add value to the process. Like I said, I encourage everyone to do their research and find the right broker for them. But I think, we are continually looking to support people in the biggest investment decision they're making in their life, and it's important that they engage with people that are educated and going to be looking after them on that journey.
Our next segment is Bring It to the Table. So you've gone away, you're bringing some words of wisdom or an item that you want to talk about. So over to you.
I think this is one of the most amazing industries in that anyone could ever be involved in. It's people are talking about it at every barbecue, every family gathering, every conversation they're having with friends is about housing. And whether that be getting involved in the delivery of housing or supporting first home buyers to make a decision to go into their first home as an owner or as a renter. I think it's something that affects everyone. I'm really proud to be part of it. But it is the biggest investment decision that someone will make in their entire life. And I would encourage anyone who wants to deliver housing or purchase their own home that they do their due diligence to make sure that they're setting themselves up for success.
Let's lock it up. So we've covered everything from housing supply to affordability to budget changes to communication and everything in between. It's been a really great conversation, and thank you for bringing your insights and your wisdom, and really appreciate you coming along.
No worries. Thanks for having me. I think you guys are doing a great job. I think the more education that we can get out there to the market is fantastic, and encourage everyone to do their research before heading into the industry.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to Own It, your property partner. If you found today's chat helpful, share it with a mate, subscribe, and leave us a review. Today we're recording on the land of the Whadjuk Noongar people. See you next time.